Hello, everyone, and welcome back to My Little Pony podcast. I am here today with the one and only Overlord Pony.
Hello.
Yes, Overlord is a good friend of mine, very creative. See this artwork on the screen? Overlord did that themselves, and it boisters a lot of colorful aspects that to me, I could look at this in a gallery and see people around me gathering around being like, oh, yeah, I see this as conspicuous, or I don't know, they'll throw out big words about it. It looks like it belongs in a gallery.
Well, thanks. I was just, I like working with a lot of different colors as you can tell. So I actually had this idea for a very long time. So I'm glad I was finally able to put it to not paper because I don't draw in a physical medium typically, but to the tablet, I guess.
Yeah, so if you want to see more artwork like this, I will post somewhere a link down below where you can find Overlord's artwork or other things like writing. Overlord does have different writing pieces from throughout the years. Is there that's also linked, right? That's somewhere.
Yeah, I can. I have a link tree, and we'll hash out which links to throw in there after this.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll do that later.
Yeah,
Those will be down below. By the way, if you hear sirens in the back, New York City, what are you gonna do?
exactly.
Today's podcast, we're talking about different species in MLP. Now, as you see in the picture, we've got the Kirin dragon, the changelings, the hippogriffs, the parrot bird creatures from the movie. I don't know what that is. I don't know. Overlord,
I
what?
th I think
Yeah.
I think that they're just called like in the books and such. They just refer to them as what kind of bird they're supposed to be, if I recall. I don't think they have like a specific sort of name. A bird furry.
Bird furry. We're gonna call them bird furries. And my man from the movie, the Cat Lord. I'm calling him that. I don't know if he what species he is. He's just a cat.
Yeah, he's just a cat.
So yeah, no. I wanted to bring this in because one thing that always interests me is the different species we have throughout the show and so many more we didn't get to see. Like, the map of Equestria is huge, am I right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and even like different creatures you can even imagine that exist. Like, have you ever thought about any creatures that might pop up that haven't been in the show?
Been in the show. Well, I do like the comics quite a bit. I haven't read all of them, but there is an entire arc where all of the species across the world meet at a place called Mount Metazoa, and there are species in that do not exist in the show. Like I'm trying to think of a specific example. I think I'm just gonna look at a picture to make sure that I'm not crazy because it's been a minute.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because the comics are truly where they expand upon the other species in the world, and they do it through, following the ponies, which is nice. But let's see, yeah, that's from the common, what is the convocation of the creatures, and we have, okay, so the cats are called Abyssians. Um,
Abyssians.
yeah, apparently the cattle have a delegate, which is Uh, that's frankly kind of concerning if you, if you think about how the cattle are taken care of in Ponyville.
Oh no.
Yeah, minotaurs. There we go. There's one, and then there's some things that look more like dragons. I'm not quite sure exactly what they are. Oh,
Yeah.
the deer. The deer would have been really cool to see at the show.
We did have one. Remember that whole adopt a pet thing Fluttershy ran in that what episode was that? She ran an adopt a pet little petting zoo thing and there was a deer in there.
That is, I don't recall, but I can believe it. That it's very interesting because of the dissonance between the show itself and the comics and how they treat different animals, right? Because why do the cattle have a delegate that goes to the International Species Conference, but the cows in Ponyville are more or less owned by Applejack?
Oh, are they? I mean,
I
are
mean, I
they?
don't know.
Wait, what if wait? What if we're wrong, and what if they're just union? What if they work for them?
Okay, that would be maybe a little less weird, I
Yeah.
guess, but like,
I mean,
not,
slavery in Equestria.
uh, yeah, I mean, it's always touchy because you can tell that the people who wrote the show were going they were well intentioned in much of what they were doing. Like the Buffalo episode,
Yeah.
they tried. They get like a little gold star for trying, I think. But
It, I mean,
yeah.
it's a kid show, so I feel like they nailed it like completely. It's like they're not trying to be serious, and it's like, and it kind of does mark history where, and I like the ending to it. It's like they got along and found compromise versus in our world, but that's a different story. But yeah, definitely hearing about the summit thing or the mount. What was it? Mount.
Mhm.
The name was
Uh, Mount Metazoa.
Medicine Metazoa. You say it
Uh,
better. I'm gonna just say whatever you said. Whatever Overlord said is the answer. But yeah, to hear the different species is just so cool. And even like, what was it before? I came up with an idea of a really big creature that was like a huge predator called a scorpra, which is
Ooh.
yeah, it's huge. It's think almost the size of an elephant, and it is the body of a scorpion, but the neck
Mhm.
going up is the head of a cobra.
Ooh.
So yeah, and I'm like, oh, that would be so cool to have something like that where it's it's rare to see, but it comes up once in a while. But that's something for the comics. But we don't get to really see ferocious creatures that much. Most of the creatures in the show, if they are dangerous, they're in far off parts, nowhere near, which would make sense if you have a kingdom set up. But it's like, introduce more creatures that we can kind of expand upon.
Yeah, I completely agree because we get lots of odd one-offs. If you think about season one, there is a dragon in a cave, and that's an entire plot. And it's like, is that the same kind of dragon that Ember and the Dragonlands are? Because if you look at the way that that dragon looks, and the way that the dragons that talk look, they do look different. So is there some sort of implication there that there are some just completely feral animal dragons and then some intelligent dragons? Like, I find the world building to be quite. I'm trying to think of the correct word here. It's like scattered almost because it's. I know that they had different writers for different episodes and such, but it's odd that something like that would be so discontinuous, right? Um,
Yeah.
and then we only see like what one manticore in the pilot, I think. It would be
Yeah.
cool. It would be neat to see more of those. And there was like a whole entire episode about a cockatrice, wasn't there? So
Yeah.
why don't we ever see them again? I completely agree that it'd be nice to have more of the ferocious, dangerous sort of critters running around from time to time. Anyway, it doesn't need to be in every episode, but yeah.
Yeah. You would have think we would have had a season finale or season opening for an episode on Titans because we had like the Ursa Major, which we never saw in action. Just
Mhm.
saw like, ooh, it's a big, and it was big. That we had the
Yeah,
Hydra, we had what else? The giant Timberwolf that was formed from the tiny Timberwolves. Like, we
Mhm.
could have had a really cool episode on Titans.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
really cool.
yeah. Imagine going to the land of the giants because the map calls them there.
Mhm.
See, that
Yeah,
would
that
be.
would be cool. That would have been a very good episode.
Speaking of different locations, one interesting place that people don't really talk about the species, and to me, it is a different species.
Mhm.
So, you remember when they went to the Crystal Kingdom, right, for the first time?
Yes.
Now, nowhere else in Equestria do they refer to as, like Cloudsdale. They don't say Cloudsdale ponies. They don't say Appalachian ponies. They don't say Manhattan ponies. Why do
Mhm.
they call them crystal ponies? Because apparently, the way they interact with their own kingdom, their forms, to me, that is a different species of ponies. To me, that is a crystal pony, which is exactly what they're called. So, your thoughts on crystal ponies?
Yeah, I think I'd be pretty inclined to agree with that because I also believe we do not see them outside of the Crystal Kingdom, which is quite interesting. And also, they seem to be functionally immortal because they're tied to the crystal. If anything, it's almost like they're only there to upkeep the Crystal Kingdom for some reason, to make it seem populated or whatever. It's it is quite interesting to think about. I mean, because it's almost like it was it's supposed to be more than what they did with it in the show, because you're right, they are called crystal ponies, they're referred to as crystal ponies. I do not believe we ever see one outside of the Crystal Kingdom. I could be wrong there, but if that is true, then that's like, okay, well, why why do they exist then? Were they created by the crystal or not?
Yeah,
What and like what it seems like they would be serving some sort of purpose.
you got a good point about that because it seems like the whole point of them is their feedback loop for the heart. The heart, gives them life and they give life to it. So it is like a weird loop. Maybe the comics clears it up. I'm not sure. You probably know more about the comics than I do.
I mean, the comics do touch on the Crystal Kingdom. That's where the Umbrum and the Umbra come from.
Mm.
That gives you more of the Sombra's lore. They're very cool. They're terrifying. But they don't really expand upon why the Crystal Ponies are there, why they're different, or any of that. Because it is interesting because they are there to power the crystal, which only seems to function within the Crystal Kingdom itself. It doesn't like go over the entirety of Equestria. So, like I said, there's a lot of implications with that, and I think that would be really interesting, like fan lore, fan fiction, to expand further upon. Because why? You're right. Why?
Yeah, I noticed certain things in the show they don't talk about because maybe it is good that we leave it up for fans or people to interpret and dream about. Like, one thing I don't like is when, like, I kind of do, kind of don't, when things are revealed because it takes away from the mystery. Like, you think as a kid, you look up at the sky and you see stars and you're like, they're such magical, beautiful things to look up at. Then as you get older, you realize that just burning balls of gas, it's like magic kind of fades away, so
No, a
yeah.
little bit. Yeah.
So maybe these stories are just mainly meant to, as you said, leave interpretations for people so we can come up with cool stories and different things for ourselves. Uh, yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. But another thing with the Crystal Kingdom, which I love, and I've never thought about this till like a few months ago after watching it again. So
Mhm.
people wonder, why do they make Spike such a hero? Like, why not Cadence? Why do they hold him in such high regard right alongside the leader of the Crystal Kingdom, Cadence in Shining Armor? Now, you got to think about this. This is seems like a kingdom that has only seen ponies. Only. You know what I mean?
Right.
So imagine this: this the day or the moment they're saved. What do they see? They don't just see Cadence. They see Spike, a dragon, riding Cadence. It's almost like a knight in shining armor riding a steed. Not to call Cadence a
Right.
steed, but it's almost like they already revere her as a queen, so it's like, okay, she has a position, but he was there. Excuse me.
Right. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is. I have never thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right. That makes a lot of sense because they would have never seen a dragon, almost certainly. So, of course, they would hold him in the high regard, and then also, yes, the cadence of that moment was in the more like rescuer of. I mean, not even. I'm not quite sure exactly what term would be correct, but she's in less of a position of power than Spike was because he was the one with the crystal. He's the one who knew how they even got to it and found it, right? So it makes a lot of sense that yeah, especially when you put it that way, but then probably have never seen a dragon before, want to memorialize him over, what they're used to, ponies.
Yeah. That's why I think it's even cooler that after season, I would say 3, they started taking him more serious because they
Yeah.
started seeing Spike as, okay, yeah, he's a baby dragon. Yeah, he's fumbles, but it's the fact that he adds so much to it. He's like in between these two worlds of dragon and pony, trying to find his identity of who he really is, but at the same time, he finds a way to still incorporate himself into their adventures at times and even sometimes be a huge help, like a huge piece of advice when he needs to be the voice of reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting too that so many, not even, I mean, even within the show, he gets infantilized to an odd degree. And even within the fandom, he seems to be. I, while they do call him a baby dragon, canonically, he's like, what, 5 years younger than Twilight? He's not really a baby. He's like a teenager.
I mean, he did go
I mean,
through
I get that he's
puberty.
yeah, I mean, I get that he's like a baby by dragon terms. But the thing is he is just as smart and capable as any of the main six. He just has a little bit less years than them. Like pretty negligible, honestly, if you think about like the. I think most people had canon the main cast to be early mid 20s, right, for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah, so him being just like a little younger than that, like 15, 16. If any, that's why I always found it kind of odd that people both in the fandom and within the show treat him like a literal toddler or something, which he's not that baby.
You know what I think it is? It's two things. First, it's that he still has baby tendencies or things they see as baby tendencies. Like, for one, he's small. He looks like he's very small compared to them. So,
Yeah.
that he naps a lot. He probably takes a lot of baths and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I could see why at first, like, they dropped the baby dragon thing after a while, but I could see why at first they would feel that way, including the fact that, once again, they didn't know much about dragons. So, all they know from Twilight is he's a baby dragon. So, that's all they thought. But that's why over time I feel they changed their tone when they started seeing him save the day and do things that were cool and just once again being the voice of reason at times. Even more, helping save a kingdom, saving a ton of them at the X Games or their what is it called?
Oh man, I can't even Equestria games, I think.
Yeah, he saved all of them. I mean, after he bombed the anthem, like
Yeah, well, oops.
I thought about it. I'm like, it's as serious as if somebody was at the Olympics and sang the national anthem like we were here in America and they sang the national anthem. It's like, America, yeah.
Right, yeah, exactly. I think the episodes where we actually have Spike being a character that you actually get to see more of his character growth. And I think his character growth throughout the entire show is more pronounced and consistent than the main six because the main six they only had so much to work with, right? And they met it towards the end and then were relearning lessons. But Spike was in the position of being an underdog and just kind of being thought of almost as lesser. Not that anybody ever treated him that way necessarily, but he's treated like a kid, right? And then throughout the show, like you said, you get to actually watch him get to do things, and they start treating him better, the writers and the ponies of the show as well, which is really nice to see. I think his character is honestly the most consistent like character arc throughout the entire series, if you think about it. And I do like a lot of the like pronounced the spike moments, like the Equestria game episode definitely comes to mind. Like that's a big moment for Spike, and so was the Crystal Empire.
Yeah. To me, he definitely is up there with character progression with Fluttershy and Rainbow Dash because all of them
Sure.
progressed in big ways. And for him, as I said, he's trying to find his identity between, living with the ponies that he know and then being the dragon that he should know. And the fact that in both respects that he had proven himself to others to show that he is more than what they used to think of him is amazing. And even the fact that he's a dragon, I would think that he would be a bit more famous in like parts of the cities or something like, a baby dragon just came to town and we got to go see him. And, I would think they would be interested in a dragon species being in their town.
Yeah, I imagine they probably wouldn't have been able to deal with so much fanfare in every episode with that though. But I do think I really also like the episodes where he gets to explore his identity as a dragon as well. Like the episode where he goes to the Dragonlands whenever the scepter is being passed. That is a fantastic episode because you get to see him finally learning more about his where he came from. I mean, egg wise anyway, I guess. So it's I really like to watch him deal with balancing his identity as like a citizen, I guess, of Equestria. That's mostly ponies, obviously, but also being a dragon and understanding like what that is supposed to mean within the dragon cultural context. Like, how do dragons work? And watching him figure it out is always. I really like those episodes too.
Oh, yeah. Parallel to Spike, by the way, as we even have in the picture, the changelings. To me, that is like a complete 180. I wanted to see completely more of their story kind of thing, like at least one or two episodes more.
I completely agree because we had the changelings under Chrysalis for so long, and we more or less understood how that worked. And then Thorax happened, and they kind of disappeared and fell off a cliff. Um, I really would have liked to see more about them. I mean, of course, we had Acellus come in as one of the student six, and we get some information from her. But what was the wider struggle of the changelings after they, I don't know, learned friendship and love or whatever? Because
Yeah,
I feel like they still there isn't really a good way to mesh into any society except themselves, especially whenever they all that they have known up to that point was hive mind, and now they each get to be individuals and have identity, which
yeah.
is it would have been cool to have a thorax episode somehow. I mean, of course, it still had to follow one of the main ponies, but it would have been neat to see, like you said, one or two more episodes for them.
I would have loved to see an episode where Thorax comes to Spike for like advice on how to rule, but then it's like he turns it, or he comes to him and he turns Thorax to Twilight, Celestia, Luna, even Cadence, and
Mhm.
he learns from all of them, and we kind of get like their POV of them teaching him how to be, and all of them have all of these different methods, and he eventually just realizes, he has to come up with his own way of ruling in a way, conditioned to how his community or how his civilians, however you call them, what they,
Yeah,
how the changelings need him for their environment, their lives, their needs, and how he can
yeah,
be there for them as a great ruler.
yeah. I think that he would be a really interesting sort of not necessarily a foil, but like a parallel to Cadence, because Cadence is an outsider ruling over the Crystal Ponies. Because she's not a Crystal Pony, she's from Canterlot, and while of course Thorax has always been a changeling and is ruling over changelings, there's still that difference in that he had to have been an outsider changeling to be in the position that he's in now. And I think also the idea of rediscovering what it is to be what you are would tie in really well with the Crystal Ponies because they were depressed when Cadence got sent up there. They didn't really have any identity at all as themselves until after the Crystal Heart happened again. And I think it was what 1,000 years that they were like that. I feel like
Yeah.
yeah, really long time. So it's like okay, well, I think that those two things could go along really well because the Crystal Ponies have to rediscover what they find culture to be and also tie that into like understanding the modern world now. And the changelings are kind of in the same position, except they're obviously negatively thought about. Nobody even knew the Crystal Ponies existed until they did. So there's a
Yeah.
little bit difference there, but still it would be interesting to see a thorax and cadence interacting and learning from each other and helping their kingdoms, I guess, um, rediscover who they are.
Yeah, imagine that episode where it's the fact of, okay, the changelings, they're good now, but their only current real allies are Celestia and Twilight, so Caroline and Ponyville, kind of. Many kingdoms don't trust them because they used to do a lot of bad, and they knew them as bad. So now
Right.
it's like the Crystal Kingdom is the one that kind of, brings them in, vouches for them, and yeah, as you said, it's just he's getting taught how to lead, and that with the Crystal Kingdom, it's kind of a thing where they've been away for 1,000 years. They're trying to fit into society, connect their own city to other cities, and gain allies. Well, now the changelings have this newfound sense of we're a part of Equestria, but what are we? How do we fit in? So I could see their kingdoms coming together in a strong alliance after overcoming the fact that the changelings were trying to take them over recently.
You're right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, as you said, Cadence, with her being new, technically still new. I mean, goodness, not new enough to not have a baby after like 2 seasons. Like, dang.
I know, man.
they got busy. But
Well, they had to sell some toys. Come on, Cadence, get on it.
come on, do it. But oh my goodness, I kid you not, the stories people have had of like, it's like it's no wonder Shining Armor is like constantly smiling. Like, oh dang.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, she is the princess of love.
Oh, I don't know how far does that love go. Oh no.
Really deep, apparently.
All right. Let's not think about it today. That's for another day. So that's for a
Yeah.
different kind of podcast.
Well, we got the hippogriffs too, which are, you know, it's interesting because I feel like of most of the new sentient things that arrive in the show itself, not the movies, because I don't think we ever see Capper other than as like a cameo in the show, and I don't think we see any of the bird furries specifically in the show. But like hippogriffs, they have to be reintroduced in society, just like the changelings. And I mean, the dragons are their own thing, of course, but they are trying to make peace agreements with Equestria, it seems like. But then you also have the crystal ponies that were lost similarly to how the hippogriffs were lost. And then you have the Kirins, and it's just like, okay, well then. Everybody just has to kind of figure everything out all at once. Everybody is confused about society because they've all been rescued out of situations.
I don't know why, but I thought you were gonna say they were rescued out of poverty.
Out of poverty, yeah, absolutely. Those damn hippogriffs, they only had seashells to pay for things, and we thus felt bad for them, so we gave them some flour.
We open
Yay.
trade with them. I mean, that's kind of. I mean, think about it. Apparently, Griffinstone really was like in poverty, and I think
Yeah.
now with Equestria open to them, they're like, we know what it's like to have real food.
Yeah, it is really weird. I always found it a little uncomfortable that they never come across a civilization that's just like doing okay. What what happened? Because Yakistan too, they're just up there. I mean, I guess they're doing okay by their standards, which is fine. They're doing fine. But outside of the Yaks, I think everybody else is they are found doing very much not fine. The Griffins are not doing fine. Nobody's doing fine.
Yeah, constant conflicts, or even the Kieran not being able to speak. Like definitely Celestia's reign. I feel like she did good, but she did probably a lot of like was not good at certain things. I mean, come on, you're
Yeah,
how did you not this whole time have alliances with all these other kingdoms, especially the hippogriffs? Like that's
yeah.
cool. Like
It's just like, wow, you sucked at the like, you know, trade agreement part of things, reaching out to your neighbors sorts of situation. Celestia really said, "Oh, okay, I'll deal with the crystal ponies in 1,000 years. It's fine."
I mean, maybe she couldn't. Maybe she was too weak. Like you got to think about it. The elements chose both of them, both, and without her sister, who was kicking her butt in that fight, um,
Right.
maybe maybe Celestia isn't as powerful as we thought. Like maybe Luna is the powerhouse, and you know, Celestia is kind of a jock though, so it's
Yeah,
tough
I
to
mean,
say.
it is interesting to think about because what Cadence be got to become like Celestia made her into an alicorn, but it seems like she was the first pony to be made into an alicorn in like 1,000 years. She could have just found literally anyone else in 1,000. I'm sure, surely there was somebody like Cadence that existed in that time frame to go deal with the crystal pony problem that she was acutely aware of. It's just it is very interesting the way that she must have just been truly 100% Equestria only.
Well, actually, remember with the Crystal Kingdom, it came back out of nowhere, so it had disappeared with Sombra.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yes, but
yeah,
still, but I mean, at the same time, though, the other places, the hippogriffs did go missing, and
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I get it though. Like maybe it's the fact that these kingdoms were trying to build themselves up after so much, turmoil and issues with past rulers. So maybe they wanted to do things on their own. And Celestial's like, all right, fine, fine, do it on your own. I'm not gonna intrude. But she's like, just keep me on speed dial. That's all.
That,
So she,
that's fair, and I guess there's probably a lot of conflict in general in the world outside of Equestria because it seems like a big reason why society doesn't really exist in the same way elsewhere is due to needing to essentially constantly fight back at things because the Storm King was the one that fucked the hippogriffs over. And then I forget what the deal with the Griffins was, but I think it was still just like there was some war going on. So it does make sense to isolate yourself and from Celestia's point of view when every other kingdom around you is just getting destroyed by the Storm King or something else, you know.
yeah. And I guess over time, she just had other things that kept her busy. Like, at first, she was like, let these kingdoms develop and I will focus on my ponies, my citizens. And over time, she just pretty much had everything she had to be, worked on her own kingdom by her own two hooves. And she didn't have the time, resources, or even the right ponies to do the job. But when the main six came along, you know, apparently the elements were like, I think it's time. And Celestia was like, you know what? You have my blessing. Go for it.
Right.
But yeah, even speaking of that, alicorns, you brought up
Hmm. Yeah.
alicorns. I mean, my OC being a zebra corn and all.
Yes.
People always had gripes with that because it's like he's a zebra and an alicorn. They're like, he's Mary Sue. I kid you not. When I first created him, they're like, he's Mary Sue. I'm like, no, no, no. He makes sense.
Oh,
Trust me. And
oh my God.
now I am an iconic zebra corn and the only one. And I'm glad.
That's so funny. I have a zebra pony hybrid character. She's not an alicorn, but she's a unicorn zebra. And people kept telling me, "Oh, she's OP," and I'm like, "What? What? How? She has the same magic as a unicorn. She's just a zebra. There's nothing weird about this." Also, like they hate for alicorn OCs. I could go all day. I think it's ridiculous that anyone cares, but maybe I'm just old.
No, I mean, it's like, let people have their OCs, I mean, I am a bit
Exactly.
biased, but let people have their OCs. Like, come on. It's, what is it? By the way, I think they called yours OP is because not the unicorn part of it, the zebra. Zebras clearly are so OP, they have to nerf them. Every time they
Yes.
use the Korra in the show, what happens?
She's awesome. I love her.
She saves the day.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Every
That's why
time.
we could never have a zebra episode because the zebras are too cool. I love zebras. They're definitely my favorite.
I would have loved if the map sent them somewhere with zebras. That would have been so cool.
I know. I was so looking forward to having a zebra episode. I was so bummed out we never got one. And I've
Yeah.
heard that the comic that it addresses it is not super great either, which sucks, but what can you do, I guess?
Eh. Well, I think, one thing I don't like is with EQG, they left Sakura out because they felt it would be an issue. Because for
I
one,
mean,
it's like, how do we do this? Do we give her gray skin? Do we give her dark skin, dark light skin? Like it was a huge issue so much to where they just threw out the character, and it's like you could have
yeah,
found a way.
I mean, obviously, I can't really speak on that much, but I agree that it would be difficult to do correctly. But I mean, surely to God, they could have honestly just asked the voice actress. I've met her before. She's a fantastic person. Like, she would probably had some ideas.
Maybe, but I feel like it's still more of a we don't want to, like, it's these days every company wants to please people, so it's like
Mhm.
I kind
That's
of get
true.
it, but I kind of don't because I'm like, just give her normal gray skin. Like, yeah, it'll look a little weird, but at least it's like, okay, we're staying in theme. We're not going to piss people off or blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah, I think a sufficiently mid-tone gray would have been just fine.
Yeah, I
But
mean, we had
uh,
Silver Spoon. She's great.
yeah, yeah, like throwing out the entire character is honestly more offensive, I think, than you know, trying.
Yeah, just like when they took Aunt Jemima off the syrup bottle. I'm like, dang, they
Oh yeah,
really did this. Like, why?
I love her. I love the syrup bottle. As I was
Yeah.
bumped out too.
Everybody was so sad when they did that. They're like, I don't want this anymore. Yeah, but yeah, no, alicorns themselves are very OP characters, and that's why I feel like the fact that we had, Twilight. I think people were overloaded on alicorns when Twilight got her wings because it's like you got Luna, Celestia, Cadence now, and it's like clearly these characters are overpowered in what they can do. So it's like I guess people were afraid of that, and it would change the dynamic. Which Twilight becoming an alicorn did kind of change the dynamics. They were a bit more regal at first, but they quickly went back to treating her like their friend.
Hmm.
But even still, like, what is it? So you remember the movie, right?
Vaguely, yes.
Yeah, the My Little Pony movie.
Yeah.
I kid you not. Every time I bring it up, I don't get how did four alicorns get beat by a soccer player?
Oh no, I completely agree. Like, what in the hell,
What?
man?
You got beat by someone who played soccer? That's all it takes?
Yeah, it's like, where is the? I understand that there's no way that they could power scale the alicorns without like throwing Twilight under the bus, but it's also like, I don't know, maybe don't write yourself into a corner
Like,
because I
oh,
get why they had to do it to make Twilight the main character or whatever, but at the same time, really,
exactly. Like, even during the show when she fought Chrysalis during the wedding, I'm like, okay,
hmm
maybe there's theories. Like, my theory is always that, and this is something for another video, that over
hmm
time she got weaker and weaker. And that's why everything was happening, like characters breaking loose from prison and, all this stuff happening. So it's like, I can get that. But you have four alicorns, an entire kingdom, the main 60 elements of harmony, and you're telling me they can't power up and beat these guys? Like, it just, to
yeah.
me, I was like, yeah, no, definitely they nerfed them. They nerfed them as badly as they nerfed Applejack during that EQG special where they went on the cruise and the Storm King came back.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. Oh
Oh,
gosh.
I'm sorry if I spoiled. I'm so
Oh.
sorry.
Oh no. Oh god, no. I don't mind spoilers at all, but
All right, it was a
that's
little bit. It's a little
wild.
bit of a spoiler, but I'm not gonna say anything else because there's so much more that goes on. Uh, I will
That
not
sounds
include that in the video because I don't want to spoil it for others. It's like, yeah, so
I,
it's just I feel like we were at first overloaded on alicorns at the beginning, and we just got used to it though.
yeah. I mean, have you watched Gen 5 at all?
Only the movie and clips of the show. Clips.
Yeah, they do s- so they do attempt to address the alicorn thing, but they didn't get enough time because it's canceled now.
Ooh.
But yeah, apparently there is a place that the alicorns come from. But then that only raises more questions to me as to how somebody can just become a completely other species. It's a little
What? Yeah, that's weird. That's like me saying, "Hey, everybody, I'm Chinese now." That's not how it works.
yeah, it's very odd. It's incredibly strange. Um,
Yeah, and the fact that all the characters we saw in G4 were all transformed alicorns, that's kind of weird.
ex yeah, exactly. Because apparently they come from a place called Skyros. We never ever get to see it in the show. Is going to be, I think, in the next season. But
Oh.
alas, no, at next season, which sucks because that is some interesting lore. I would be very down to learn more about because what is the deal? Because Sunny is also a transformed alicorn, except she doesn't keep her horns and like wings and horn, like Twilight does, and Cadence, etc. So it's like, what happened? And we will never know. It's very frustrating because it's like I I also disagree that Gen 5 should have had like the timeline of Gen 5. I don't like it, but I still am interested in knowing the canonical sequel, despite not agreeing with it.
Yeah, I see that draws me to another thing. So for one, I will say that if they would have put out that episode, it would have been so problematic. The comments would have been crazy because as you said,
hmm
it's like it raises more questions than answers, and it
hmm
feels like they're trying to find a way to form it, but it they could have just, not addressed it and left it at we messed up. Because it's like
Exactly.
either you're going to make someone an alicorn or not. They can't have the power to grow temporary horns and a wing for a moment and then let it go. It's like that's not how it's ever worked.
Yeah. It's it's a very odd like it's just a choice. TM. I cannot imagine that Skyros was canon in Gen 4 though, because Celestia and Luna, I, I don't we have. I think there's a book that explains how they became alicorns, but they were all like you said, they were also not born alicorns. So it's like, wow, what, why,
And to
why?
think they never would have reached out to this kingdom that also has Alec. Like,
Exactly. Apparently, it's in the sky. That's why it's called Skyros, and it's like that's also incredibly odd. Again, I'm deeply interested in knowing what in the hell they were planning on doing. It's just it is kind of sad that we will never, maybe never, I don't know. No. So,
yeah, maybe as a comic it would have been a good idea because I did have an idea a long time ago for something called the Alicorn Games, where all these alicorns get together in this other realm. Only alicorns are invited, and it turns out like this one unicorn janitor they have to clean up everything. He like tries to sabotage the games and take over everything and steal their magic because he's upset that he never gets to participate and all this nonsense. But I'm like, that would have been a good concept. But it's the fact that too much of that feels like it's overpowering because it's like already when you first think of an alicorn, you think overpowered, as we said. Imagine having a whole army of them. No one would stand a chance. Then it's like the point of then,
yeah,
then how
it,
could
yeah,
yeah, at that point how could Equestria ever fall?
right.
Yeah,
And I mean, they are apparently completely separate. The little bit of information that we have gotten about it off of like leaked Gen 5 documents has basically said they sequestered themselves away from everybody forever. And it's like, okay, I kind of want to know why. I guess we'll never know now.
I mean maybe
Okay,
it's like in Skyrim. You've played Skyrim, right?
yeah.
Oh, excuse me. It could be excuse me.
Okay.
It could be like the Greybeards in Skyrim. And for those of you don't know,
Mhm.
for those of you that don't know, Skyrim is a video game, Nordic times, fighting swords, all that. And essentially there's a war going on in this game, the Civil War. And these Greybeards, these guys who have the power of a dragon that sit up in the mountain, they do is they go high up into the highest mountain in the realm, and they just sit there and meditate all day long on these words of power, the abilities they have. They don't interfere, and it's essentially maybe it's like that where they have this power, but they realize that their power, whether good or evil, or even both, is bad because let's say they go good, okay,
Mhm.
they become kind of dictators in a way because it's like they decide what's good. Then also the fact that they become evil, land would be destroyed, everyone would have a hard time. Finally, if they had like, oh, you let alicorns choose for themselves, you'd have a war of alicorns, then everything would be destroyed, period. So
Yeah,
I can understand because it's like with great power comes great responsibility. So maybe it's like that. Maybe.
me.
Yeah. Maybe I'm right. I don't know. I could be crazy.
Uh, I mean, that would be nice. I I I don't know because it does seem like again, and this is not addressed really in Gen 4, but I guess it does make sense if you think about it. It is kind of implied because Celestia, Sun, Luna, Moon, um, Cadence, Love, and Twilight is magic slash friendship. All of the alicorns apparently have some sort of specific thing that they control. The main antagonist in Gen 5, the series that we get, is the alicorn that controls fire. So it's like they're demigods or something. I don't know. Again, it's there's a whole lot of speculation to be had there, and I would like to believe that it's kind of in the same realm as the Greybeards because that would be probably the most logical option there. But it seems like probably not. It seems like they're all kind of snooty and stuck up, and their whole deal is just wanting to rule something. maybe they only have power if they rule something. I do not know.
See,
It's
what?
it's it's like there's so many questions to be had, especially like on the topic of being a separate species. Why in the hell are we able to like become one? Like you said, that it's be like becoming Chinese one of us at random. And it's like, why? I guess not even that. It's a completely different species. It'd be like if you became a dog, you know?
Yeah. So you're saying in the comics that they crave power or they feel they need to rule over things?
I don't think it's from the comics. I think it's just from what has leaked after Gen 5 got canceled. I
Uh,
think there's been some leaks of the documents that they use, like some of the series Bible and such. And the
yeah.
little tips that we have about Skyros seem to maybe imply that, but
So
I don't
now
really
that
know.
raises even more questions. Unless they came years after Twilight in her reign, and apparently now, freaking what is the baby's name? Sugar Swirl, Flurry Heart,
Ember?
Flurry Heart.
Oh, Flurry Heart.
I
Yes,
said
Flurry
Sugar
Heart. Ember
Swirl.
is the dragon. Oh,
Yeah, I said Sugar Swirl, but but maybe I don't know if this is the only explanation that I can think of. Flurry Heart has offspring, and those become the alicorns of G5.
yeah, that doesn't even, no, it's not the case because I mean, I guess it's a minor spoiler, but Opaline, that's her name. She
Mm-hmm.
knew Celestia and Luna in Skyros, which then kind of fucks up the entire thing with what we know about Celestia and Luna, because apparently now they're from Skyros, which would imply that they were born alicorns. So it's again,
What?
yes, I find it's interesting because they were so clearly attempting to bring everything together into one thing, but My Little Pony historically has never been that. You know, when we were kids, we had Gen 3. There's like a show on TV. We had the Gen 1 movies. None of those had anything to do with each other ever. So I really feel like they should have done that with Gen 5, but I understand that the issue was with the fandom to some degree, wanting to appease them, but also still do the My Little Pony thing where it's just ponies and insert world here.
Exactly. I feel like also the writers, which it could be true, I don't know. The writers might not have known the source material they were working with the whole time. You know, they may not have referred to references like when they wrote something in as extensive and as important as alicorns. They didn't really look into it. They probably looked at the show surface and said, this is what we'll use, versus looking into the comics as well.
Yeah, it is always interesting that the comics seem to be a completely separate entity from the show. In honestly, most of the time, it seems to be that way.
Definitely, it just raises so many questions. And one other thing when it comes to alicorns, right? So we know Twilight is an alicorn, right?
Yeah,
And
right.
in EQG, her character, when she was powered up in, I think, the friendship games or something, right?
Sounds right.
Yeah, in the friendship games, her character got wings and a horn, right?
Yeah,
Didn't Sunset Shimmer also have horns and a wing? Or a
I,
horn and wings?
you know what? I think so. I think I remember that happening, and people, rightfully being like, "Holy shit, that's cool," or mad about it. One of the two, depending on how much you like Sunset, I guess.
I love Sunset. She is a badass character.
Yeah, I
Celestia's
think
first
she's cool.
student.
Yeah, she's cool. I like her a lot.
So this goes in hand with my theory that
Mhm.
Sunset was supposed to be next in line for Celestia, and she still technically is. Because Twilight's
Mhm.
the princess of friendship.
Yeah.
Celestia controls the sun. What if Sunset Shimmer, is the
Hmm.
one that's going to be like the new reigning over the sun once Celestia fully retires?
Right. That'd be cool.
Yeah, and Starlight Glimmer took over Luna's post because it's like
Mhm.
they're both extremely powerful. Now, no, I don't think Starlight would be a alicorn, but she could stay a unicorn and still control the night. You know, still control the
Oh yeah.
moon. It seems she has the power. Like if she can outpower Twilight, when she was fighting her, I think she has enough energy to do what Luna does.
Oh, for sure.
I think it's possible that with Sunset having wings in the movie, I think that's completely like it's not an error. I think it's completely a part of canon that she is meant to be an alicorn.
Yeah, and I mean it's still just so interesting though because Celestia and Luna are creating alicorns out of the most similar species to them, right? The ponies. Why? Because alicorns can be birthed, as we saw from Flurry Heart, but also apparently Skyros is just an entire world that is where the alicorns live. They live there. So
Yeah, I don't know.
like what like that has that I get that it's a messy lore thing that there's probably like not really that much to read into it, but it just makes me wonder because it's such an interesting little bit of world building, I guess.
For me, definitely, I'm gonna be honest. I don't even want to think anymore about Skyros because to me it gaggles my brain. You
Yeah,
know,
no, I hear you. Yeah, especially the first time you hear about it, you're like, "What? What do you mean that's what they decided to go with?" Because yeah,
I
I
mean,
agree.
good luck if we ever get a G4 revamp where they do more of
Mhm.
it or go back to G5 and they're like, okay, we cancel it, but we're bringing it back. Anything like that. Sure, go to Skyrose. Just please don't mess up the story. Go to the source material, get it right so we can understand what's going on. Maybe they were locked away. Maybe it's the fact that they were hidden to the point that Celestia and Luna didn't know about it, or even if they did know about it, it's like getting there, they didn't have the means to even go there. It's just give us something so we
Right.
can not feel like why did they not come to our aid when the world was almost destroyed several times like
Yeah,
you know
exactly. It is
yeah.
that's definitely the messiest piece I think of any lore in the show almost. I would say that it's incredibly messy, yeah.
You can't just say it's them ruling over themselves because it's alicorns ruling over alicorns. It feels weird.
Right.
It's almost like Mayor presiding over Ponyville. It's like she's kind of the leader of the town, but kind of not. Like you don't really see her taking a lead. In fact, Twilight, most often than not, is the one taking lead of the town in some effort. And it's like an Alicorn overshadows you, so it's like so.
Right.
When you got alicorns ruling over alicorns, who's the leader? Is it the most powerful, the most wise, the most magical, the one who has a third
Right.
wing? Like,
They
tell
would be
us.
very good at flying if they had three wings.
Would they be though? Is that aerodynamically correct? Isn't it like off balance?
Yeah, they would fall probably on their face.
we that's Alicorn Derpy. She's weird.
Yeah, there you go. But wait a minute, Alicorn Derby rules them.
Oh no. Oh no, I'm opening up another can of worms. But I would love to see. Oh, just to make everyone mad, if I was a writer for the show, and either I found out we were being canceled, like they canceled the show completely, or I was
Hmm.
being fired and we had one episode left, I
Yeah.
would literally make an episode where everyone was an alicorn. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Cry about it. I'd be so vengeful.
Oh my God, that would be good.
And I
That would be
would
good.
leak it too. If they're like, we're not airing this, make something else. I'm like, okay, save it. Literally leak it. Season
God.
series finale. They're like, oh no. Oh, Hasbro stock cut in half. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Well, we had a wonderful podcast talking about different species from the show. Thank you everyone for joining us. Don't forget, I had my friend Overlord here.
Hello.
Yeah,
It's been nice being here.
it's been wonderful having you. I always have a great time chatting with you. We gotta definitely do this again next time. We'll have a different theme for all of you out there. Don't forget, down below in the description, I will have links to Overlord's content that you can view, writing and art, and you can definitely send in some comments and appreciations and check out to be what's next. I mean, Overlord, what's next for you when it comes to art or writing?
I hope to start regularly writing my fan fiction, which here's my selfless plug here. I have a fleur-de-lis rarity ship fic called Gilded Lilies that is, I promise I'm working on it. I
You,
hope to regularly be updating that soon and then hopefully be creating more artwork come in the next few weeks.
interesting. Gilded lilies. Interesting. All right. Well, thank you for joining everybody, and you all have a wonderful day until the next podcast.
Bye.
We forgot to talk about the breezies, those little cute things, you know?
Oh yes, those things that showed up for one episode.
Yeah, they were so, they treated Fluttershy so badly. I'm gonna be honest. Now, don't hate me. I was hoping she'd accidentally squish one.
Hey, no, that's honestly warranted. They were very rude.
Just imagine she goes around the whole episode, and the whole point is she has to hide that she squished one of them.
Oh my God.
They're like, "Where is our friend?" And she's like, "I don't know."
Well, gosh.
And then
I
they,
I
yeah.
the breezies are just so baffling too because why do they have a completely different language but then also only show up sometimes and truly
I don't know, but I like their characters. Hopefully,
I do too.
nobody makes the squish thing. I've seen the glue trap art. You remember that?
Oh yes. It's only funny whenever it's a meme.
Yeah, the person who did the glue trap art, I was actually their second ever commission for the glue trap thing, and I had
Yeah.
them do cozy glow in a glue trap because my friend
Oh
loves
my
cozy
God.
glow.
That's so good.
It's like, oh no, which makes sense. Cozy glow's so tiny. I'm like, you got beat by a literal child. You know, you could have just kicked her or something. Like, don't, not really, but
Well, I've been kind of though,
exactly, just knock her over. She's what, 2 inches tall? Just
right? Like, God.